I was going through my memory box and discovered an old school assignment, which I still have. It was called Annabelle's Adventure. And, the wheels in my head started turning and thinking, this would be a great picture book. And is that something I would be interested in doing, especially after finishing my previous job? And I do have 3 children, but, I like to keep busy with projects. So I dived headfirst into creating Showing Kindness.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unfiltered Voices, the podcast that is all about busting the myth that self-published is second-rate. I'm Kelly Nissen. I'm an author coach and a self-published author, and I'll be talking to authors, illustrators, and other self-published industry professionals about their choices, their journeys, and everything in between. So stick around. Welcome everybody to Unfiltered Voices, and welcome to today's guest, Tenille Seow.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Tenille Seow lives in Brisbane with her husband Ian and 3 children, Sierra, Oliver, and Emma. She published her first picture book, Showing Kindness, in October 2021. And next year, in March 2026, she'll be releasing her first fantasy YA, The Light Within, the Aura Academy of Magic, which sounds fascinating. I love YA. Now, Tenille, your picture book, you told me, started out as a school assignment. Can you tell us a little bit more about the assignment and about what Showing Kindness is all about?
During COVID, because, there was nothing else to do, and I like a good sort out, I was going through my memory box and discovered an old school assignment, which I still have. It was called Annabelle's Adventure, and the wheels in my head started turning and thinking, this would be a great picture book. And is that something I would be interested in doing, especially after finishing my previous job? And I do have 3 children, but, I like to keep busy with projects. So I dived headfirst into creating Showing Kindness with the third party. So I guess a lot of this book is based around my family. The different characters are based on my children, and I play the flute. I created a land called Starland, and Poppy is the kind fairy. There's a rabbit who's Harry the Brave. Edward is the strong unicorn, and Eliza is the wise mouse. I sort of have a thing for old-fashioned names, and I like that sort of like Potter.
Beatrix Potter.
Beatrix Potter, yes. Sort of classic sort of picture books.
Mm-hmm.
So Fairy is always kind to people, and then she finds herself in trouble, and one of the characters helps her and is kind to her. And in the end, the kindness sort of spreads to everyone. If you help someone, they'll help you, sort of thing. Bring that goodness out into the world.
That's beautiful. And earlier you were showing me your original book, your school project, which had a different title, I noticed, but I know that there would be a lot of us out there, and I know I certainly did. I think it was in year 11. We might have been studying children's literature in English, and one of the assignments was to write a children's picture book, which you obviously did at some point as well.
The advice I got from my publisher is to elaborate more, have a bit more into it, but it's exactly the same premise. Annabelle goes out to pick some fruit, helps someone, and then she herself, her fairy, gets her wing, gets torn, and then the mouse comes and fixes it up for her.
Yep.
It is the same story, but and I've got a cousin called Annabelle, so I thought, I don't know if she felt having it on the story, so I just played around with names. And Poppy's a very light and sort of fairy sort of name for a character.
I love that you started that book in high school and you actually went through and did something with it. Because I know the one that I did in high school is still sitting in my drawers. So maybe, maybe it's a good thing to sort of pull those out and revise them sometimes. So just moving from picture book being your first picture book up to a YA fantasy novel is a huge jump. We're not just talking a massive jump in word count, which I know freaks a lot of people out, but it's also like conceptually, it's very different. The themes are very different. There's usually multiple storylines, more characters, and that sort of thing. Why did you write The Light Within? And can you give us a little sneak peek as to what it's about?
Well, obviously, with the picture book, I was totally naive with the whole publishing industry about how it works and the costs involved. And I sort of put the brakes on and go, hey, I want to do this, but let's backtrack a bit. And I'm all about learning new skills. So let's go to the Australian Writer Centre and jump on board and do a few courses and see what that leads to. Also, I have dyslexia, which is probably why sometimes I find it hard to pronounce words or to find a word in my brain. So I was reading a popular fantasy book, and I'm an avid reader. That's not my problem with dyslexia. I can read anything. I couldn't go past the first page. The language was so hard. I got so overwhelmed and I just felt defeated because I couldn't even, like, why was everyone raving about this book? I want to get on board, but
Yeah.
names, the cities, I was too intense, and the spice factor. And it was a little bit too much for me. So I found it a bit uncomfortable reading it. So and when I've done my courses and they said, you submit something you're working on, I sat down and I thought I would like to write a YA that's sort of a transitional fantasy book. So for those who are just getting into fantasy, those from middle grade are getting a bit older, but not parents are not quite wanting them to read something a bit spicy or with a lot of swearing. So I thought, let's write something sort of right in between that middle ground. And so therefore the YA fantasy I started writing and that was it. Also on a publishing point of view, if I was to self-publish, the cost would go down and it'd be more manageable project for someone who's not working currently. That didn't mean I didn't try to get publishers to do it. I gave myself a 1 year window of submitting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying self-publishing is a last resort. Some people want to do it straight away. But I thought I need a little bit of help. And if I happen to get someone to come and help me, oh, well, that would be a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. I like that you sort of you had this ultimate goal, which was to get the book out, but you also gave yourself a timeline. So you tried one way and thought, okay, after this deadline, if nothing happens, then I'm not going to let this manuscript sit in the top drawer. I'm actually going to do it myself, showing kindness. Did you hybrid publish that?
I paid a company, a third party,
Yes.
to produce it with editor, the cover.
I thought that might have been the case because you said you didn't know who the illustrator was, and that sometimes is the case with hybrid publishing. We have had a couple of people on the show before that have hybrid publishing. It's still a legitimate way to get your story out there, and it doesn't mean that your story wasn't good enough for that contract. There's still process that you have to go through, and you still, at the end of the day, if you want to sell your books, you still have to have a good story. So I like that you've sort of dipped your toe into the water a couple of times and gone, you know what, take what you learned from the hybrid publishing experience and apply it to the self-publishing, because you would have learned a lot, I think, in that process. So which allows me to sort of move on to your writing journey. You started at school, and you've also mentioned that you've done a couple of courses since then. What I really love, and I have to say this because I don't do this myself and I love it when other people do, is that you've done a few courses and then done something with it. Okay, so as I was looking the other day, and I should never do this, at courses that I've done, and there's like so many. At some point, you actually have to stop and do. I think, which you've obviously done, and you've done that twice now. So back to my original question, your writing process, when you have an idea and then you sit down to write, is there a particular process that you follow?
So I'm still writing picture books. And the famous Marie Kondo taught us the key about letting things go by asking the question, does it bring you joy? So I asked myself two questions when I've written a picture book script. So that might take a day, a week, before it's
Yep.
finished. I put it away and then I will look it up again because sometimes you're doing something in the moment, you're so excited about it. When you read it, you're like, oh, what was my thought pattern? Does this give me the same feeling? Am I so excited about it? Has it got a meaning? Is it just sort of do something for me, or is it am I writing for someone else? Is that a great thing? Or, then I might go, okay, well, I still really like this and I think this could be publishable. I dedicate time and resources in polishing it. So because of my learning disability, I need an editor. So I need someone to look at it or with fresh eyes to tidy up the little mistakes I make, put words around the wrong way that I cannot see myself. So, I need to make sure I love the script and I'm going to go all the way. If
Mm,
I say no, and publishers at the moment aren't looking for that type of story for that year, I might just put it away in the ideas folder and every now and then I'll have a look. I might merge two stories together, or
mhm.
I might reinvent it totally, but it's always there in the back of my head. With
Yes.
my novels and with YA, life experience, hands down, because 80,000 words. A lot of things that happen in my life have really fueled the ideas that come from that. And I can also sit down and you say, I need a story about animals. I'll sit down and I'll write a story about animals pretty
Yeah.
easily. Whether it'd be any good, I don't know, but I have so many ideas in my head. It's not a problem. You know,
Yeah.
polishing, drafting, that's another side of the story. Won't go there. That takes a bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
basically that's how I do it.
Yeah. So it is sort of semi-systematic, but you're also going with where your heart leads you, I think,
Yeah.
aren't you? For some people, that really works rather than having a particular structure that you have to follow because you sometimes feel quite boxed in with that sort of thing. So, in your experience to date since publishing Showing Kindness in 2021, what is one thing that you've experienced either in the writing or in the publication process that you feel that you could turn into advice for other aspiring authors or people who are thinking of, maybe doing a little bit of what Tenille does?
Um, we always have a half a dozen picture stories ready to go when an opportunity presents itself because you never know when you message that one person, ask that question, they'll say, I want to see what you've got. And you're like, I've got to madly figure out something right now.
Yes.
That's always a good thing. So, and I don't feel bad that I've got a half a dozen stories that haven't been published because I know either they're not right now, or once I get more experience, I'll have a bit more freedom to decide what I'd like to publish,
Yeah.
for the industry,
So I think, to have a bunch of stories that you've written and don't throw anything away. Just because one person says no doesn't mean everybody will all the time. So I think that's great advice to give. So Tenille, you've really only, in the grand scheme of things, when you think of authors who've been at it for 20 plus years, you've really not long started your author journey. And I know you have goals because, it's good for all of us to have goals, whether it's small or large. So what is the next milestone that you're hoping to reach as an author? What's the next thing you want to achieve?
It sounds horrible, but to get through the launch of The Light Within. So, that nervous feeling of, are people going to buy my book? Is it going to totally bomb? That sort of feeling. With the marketing side, what to expect on the other side. This is like my first, I would say, real launch. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, and I'm like a turtle. I'm slowly coming out of my shell, like talking to you. This is a big thing for me. I might do some research, or after holidays do a course or talk to some established authors what they've done to get help, because I know what they'll say. They'll say, you need to get out there. You need to go to the shops. And I'm like, and I know there are self-published authors that I've seen, they're just brilliant. They go to markets, they seem to go to everything, and they have this full of energy. And I'm just like, I can't do that. Maybe one day I will, but I'm sure at the end of the day, they're just like, oh, I'm glad that's I
I
need some
suspect
chocolate. I
so.
need something to get me through the next thing. But I think they're so brave to do that, facing
Yeah.
people. Like even mentioning showing kindness to my friends, I'm just like, I have a book, but I sort of run away sort of thing. I want them to mention it. So I need to get more practice with that.
It is hard, I think, for a lot of us, for people in general, to put themselves out there. It's something that you have to practice. And I think the fact that you've come on to Unfiltered Voices and put yourself out there that way, that's like a little stepping stone. And then, you might do another one, and then you might do, really a small market or something like that. But I think it is important also to go at your own pace. And if you don't actually feel comfortable with doing something, to put it aside and maybe do it at a smaller
Mhm.
scale. I totally understand that, but it is really important to be able to put yourself out there and show that you're proud of it as well. Showing Kindness was a COVID book, really, wasn't it? So you didn't have a
Yes.
launch for that. It was towards the end of
End
COVID,
of
but
COVID. I did try to get into schools. I did a show at um, my my children's primary school, and I tried to sort of make more of a children's show than just my books. So I had different books that I dress up, and I
mm,
was trying to sort of make that my entry point into getting into schools. But then they suddenly all said, we're not having third parties come into schools, and I sort of lost some momentum without exposure or not with support to get to distribution. It sort of it didn't do very well, like sales.
it's hard work. It is really hard work, and you said about losing momentum. It's really really hard to get back on the horse. I think, and to go, oh, God, I've got to keep going, and this is tiring. So, um, but again, like you said, if you want those sales and you want to get known, you've just got to put in that legwork. That's not going to sell itself, unfortunately. So I mean, that's I think one of the things to consider when you're self-publishing or hybrid publishing, and even actually now with traditional publishing, because a lot of the publishers like the authors to be able to get out there and go and do those speaking gigs, the launches,
Or you'll
get.
be able to call up someone and say, hey, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, or can you help me? You've got that sort of backup support behind you.
So, what would you say then to somebody who was thinking about, oh, should I self-publish or should I even bother? What would your advice be?
Well, obviously know yourself. So are you introvert? Are you extrovert? Are you happy to talk? My brother-in-law could talk to Eskimos about selling ice. Like he could just sell anything to anyone. Are you that sort of person that would be able to do that? Um, find out the total costs. If money is an issue, like that's always a factor in it. And I was sprung with some hidden costs that I wasn't quite aware of. How long a book takes, like why would it take so long? And so I didn't realize it took a year to do that. I had to practice a lot of patience and that had
Mm.
to come on board with that. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and but if you're like, you know what, I want to have total control myself, I want to self-publish, go for it.
Yeah, I think it's being open to opportunities, but also trust the process, because all it takes is that one chance meeting with somebody. You're on your way. Even though it's tough sometimes, keep going ahead. Do your research, do your homework, because there are hidden costs. You don't know what you don't know. It's the same with any new venture in
Mm.
life. So you've been known to say that if somebody puts up a barrier, that you will find your way around it. So the question for you there is, what's one obstacle that you've come across that actually turned out to be your biggest creative fuel?
I mean, I'm still chugging along, but I think when I first started, I really got so disappointed and rejected that I was just like, am I going to do this? And I sort of like stood up and go, you know what? I'm going to allow myself to have a pity party this afternoon. I eat some chocolate, have a cry. And then once I'm ready, I'll sit back down on the computer because sometimes you can't look at your rejected work because you think, I'll see what the problem is and I'll go, why didn't I do that? That's my fault, my fault. I'll go, right. Is there another avenues for this project that I could try? Do I need a fresh pair of eyes? Have I not had it checked enough? There's a particular project right now that I've put to publishers. They love it, but because it's so niche, they're saying that, the investment isn't, they can't invest in it, which
Yep.
is fair enough. And so I thought, well, I can't self-publish it myself, and I would. If I was a millionaire, I would. Of course I would. But I just had a thought the other day of, you know what? I'm going to email these few companies, and
Mm,
they said, you know what? We have grants for your sort of project.
yes.
Go to apply for it. So apply for it, and you never know. So I'm in the middle of applying for the grant. It closes in February. So I'll let you know how that turns out. And if that doesn't turn out, I'll be going, you know what? I will just put it aside and maybe one day someone will invest in that, or I will be a millionaire and I can make that book. And in the meantime, I'm working on my other stuff. So obviously, experience helps. You know what? There's other ways to do it.
You mentioned grants. There are a lot of grant opportunities in the publishing industry and the book world and the creative arts and that sort of thing. If you've got a book that fits into a particular niche, there might be other community grants or business grants that you can go for. So never say never until you've exhausted everything.
You just never know. Just like don't throw it in the bin. Don't think
Yes.
efforts are wasted because it's not. It might have been the project you needed to do.
You can always resurrect something when the time is right. And that goes back to what you said earlier about, keeping a file of your work, because you might have something that you wrote 3 or 4 years ago and the time wasn't right then, but then somebody's looking for that now. You just don't know. You've sort of had quite a varied life. You've lived in Malaysia for a while, is that right?
Oh, I went to a holiday.
Okay, so you've traveled in
Holiday.
Malaysia.
My husband's from Malaysia, so I met
Oh,
him
there
through
you
a
go.
mutual
So
friend.
you've got connections
I
then
have a
with
connection. I've got a
Malaysia.
cultural. That's a lot of my adult fiction novels actually character from Malaysia. So there you go.
Excellent. Yeah. So you got sort of from Malaysia to uh, life in the Queensland Police
As
Force,
administration officer.
through to your author life. So quite varied. And if we want to use a book term, we could say that's quite a few plot twists in your life. So thinking about your life now, if your life needed a title, what would you call it?
Keeping my options open.
Yes.
There's lots of there's not one way to succeed, I guess. Showing kindness might not have hit it off as you sort of anticipated. Mind you, I wasn't prepared, but I did get it in my local library that I've gone for the last 39 years, and that was a big win for me. And to see it in the library app to say if someone's got it out is always a thrill. And looking for it, oh, it's not here, and someone must have it, or a message from a family saying she still loves this book. That really brings a smile, makes it all worth it in the end.
So what's next for you, Tenille? What's next
What's
on your
next? I need to get my skates on writing book 2 of The Light Within because it's a trilogy, and it ends on a cliffhanger, so people will be wanting answers. So I better get to that. Like I said, I want to finish an adult fiction book called The Long Road to Forgiveness.
Hmm.
Um, that's a project I definitely want to finish, and I've had some comments saying maybe I might be suited for a more older audience. So I've started writing a book, middle grade book in. So obviously
Hmm.
I'm open to writing any genre and learning to see which sort of sticks, I guess. But I enjoy writing. I need a break from picture book because 500 words, you know what? I need to just write without worrying about the word count or how many pages it fits on. It's just a bit of a relief to do that.
Yeah, because there are so many people that think, oh, picture books, geez, they're only short. They must be really easy to write. But
Uh,
no, I think you can verify that. It's like they are not easy to write at all. And yeah, so I think for you, it's about finding your sweet spot,
mm,
really, isn't it? Sort of, where you feel the most
yeah.
comfortable, you
The
know.
reality of publishing, as much as we like to push it aside, can I afford to do this as a side project? You really have to take all circumstances in consideration as much as I want to publish all my books, but in the end of the day, I've got three kids going through school. I've got to balance the needs. So self-publishing is great that way. It's a little bit more cost effective. So
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely great to have that available.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
So before we go, this has been fantastic chatting to you. It's about your books and your experience and your thoughts. And we're all on a very similar, same but different journey, but everybody's take on things is just that little bit different. So before we go, can you just let people know where they can find you, where they can go to purchase your picture book, but then later on when it's released, your YA. And I'm not sure if you do library visits or school visits and that sort of thing, but there would be schools out there that would love to have you come and talk about showing happiness. So, how can people get in touch with you?
On Instagram, Teaspoon Storytime is my tagline. I've gotten my head around that. You can DM me for inquiries. I've got plenty of hardcover copies in my possession as it's out of print, so I've only got the copies left, but I've got plenty. And if you're in Brisbane, I'll deliver it to your door.
Fantastic.
The Light Within, you can pre-order the ebook, but the ebook and the physical copy will come out on the 31st of March, 2026. And if it grows, there'll be more opportunity to get more physical copy. You can buy physical copies, and it's in Kindle at the moment. School visits, yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think they're open to it now. Um, Maybe even high schools for the
Yeah. Or I'm thinking too, because I used to be a teacher, but high schools for the actual process of writing. So, I mean, your inspiration for your picture book came from a high school project. So, talk about the process that you went through, because I know that there are students out there who think I'd love to do this one day because they love writing.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't even like writing. I didn't go to university because I was just so frightened about writing because of my learning difficulties. So
Mm.
even if people want to talk about their journey with that and taking
Absolutely.
something that you hated to do, um, you did it by choice because you had to, but then later on, I sort of felt I need something creative. I can't
Mm.
draw. I can't draw. I can't sew. And I love books. So, you know what? Let's get over this fear of writing. There's so many tools these days. So,
That in itself would be a fascinating topic of
yeah.
conversation with the upper primary and high school students, I think. So yeah, there's a lot there that you could definitely talk about. So Instagram direct message is the best way
Yeah.
to get in touch with you, and teaspoon story time it was, wasn't
Teaspoon
it?
story time. Yeah.
So, Tenille, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Um, Love to have you back on to talk about your YA when it comes out, and yeah, good all the best with and your adult novel as well.